What's going on, everybody? Eric Lindquist at Stochastic here on the Odd Shopper channel, coming to you with a Week 4 edition of Ladies, Leans, Likes, and Locks NFL edition. Hit that like button, subscribe button, notification bell. Goes a long way for me on this video, goes a long way for you. That way you become a prize whenever great content is going live here at our little neck of the YouTube woods. Week 3 was not good. I don't know what else to say about it. Week 1, pretty solid. Week 2, good. Week 3, not good. Bad. I need to be better. Be better, Eric. Talking about myself in third person, it was that bad. But you know what? We still had some decent enough calls. Backed up Mr. Gardner Minshew to glory. That was nice. And that's really like all I really got. Brian Robinson continues to do decent enough things, even in games where they're getting completely destroyed. Thank you to him. Really, really enjoy that individual. But Tony Pollard, come on, man. We'll talk about Tony Pollard today. Don't you worry, you're sweet, Bippy. We're also going to talk about a new sponsor, Bet365. My God, this deal is ridiculous. Bet $1, get $365 in bet credits. Now, there are only a couple of states where this is available, but Kentucky, hey, if you're listening there, congratulations. You just got sports betting and a lot of other stuff. If you want to check, see if Bet365 is available in your area, because again, bet $1, get $365 in bet credits. That's the dumbest deal that I've seen. This deal existed like a year and a half ago. I thought we would never see the light of day again. But here it is. So take advantage, only if you're 21 and over. And if you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. But holy mother of God, Bet365. Good to see you again. My gosh, you have to take advantage of this offer. I don't know what else to say. That's a lot of ammunition here for a Sunday and Monday and a Tuesday. And MLB playoffs and NBA is coming soon. Take advantage of it. Anywho, I'm watching the Ryder Cup. The USA is terrible, so we're going to try to improve. Week 3 bad. Thank God I didn't bet the US. I did bet the spread between 1 and 3. We'll see if that ends up happening as they're down 5 after day 1. Wild stuff over there in Rome. But you can follow me over at Eric Lindquist. I'm giving you updates on all of my bets over there in terms of locks on Lindy's Locks Update. And then the premium Discord where you can find my plays every single Monday through Friday for the MLB streets and NBA when that comes back around, as well as Sundays here, of course, for the NFL. And that's what we break down here on this program. Leans, Likes, Locks, giving you a confidence scale of my favorite plays here on the board. Likes, Locks, those are the ones that are auto plays. Leans, those are things we're thinking about playing. So without further ado, producer Jacob, let's get to the picks. Feel like I'm in Oz with my background. But good morning from London. Heading to Wembley for Falcons, Jaguars. Jaguars, they do this a lot. They travel across the pond. They've done it every single year outside of 2020. So since 2013, when they started doing these London games, this has kind of been the deal. But I got to throw it out there. Atlanta doesn't do this very often. And now Jacksonville is also going to be staying put for a week before then they go to Germany. There's a lot of different stuff that the NFL is trying out here. Again, Jacksonville. It's a weird place to have an NFL franchise as it is, wouldn't you say? Huh? If you're from Jacksonville, just know that I love you and you have really good golf. Anyway, we've got Jacksonville here. Opened as 3. It hasn't moved. I'm going to call that pretty efficient if you ask me. And Atlanta, coming off of some interesting game scripts here in the last few. This is one that I'm not really all that excited to go out of my way to back. Again, early morning football game. Everybody's looking for those island game plays. And I'm an island boy looking to help you out with a little bit of something. And I think this is the weird one for you. Tyler Algier, 7.5 receiving yards. Now, I can't take credit for this one. This one popped up over on Odd Shopper, and it kind of caught my interest. So I did a little bit of digging. No third downs. Positive game scripts. All Tyler Algier. And, well, if you're running into something like this, even with Cordarrelle Patterson back into the mix, you're not going to see any Tyler Algier in many passing down situations. I think Bijan Robinson is just hashtag talented. We'll play more and more as we go along. And again, Tyler Algier, this is a low number as is. You're basically sweating the entire game. If something happens to Bijan Robinson, yeah, you're probably going to be in some trouble. You're probably looking at Tyler Algier coming out there and being able to garbage time find something there. But this has never really been a part of Tyler Algier's repertoire in his time here in Atlanta, even going back to last season. And you look at this matchup specifically, they do hold opposing running backs down 84 rushing yards per game. That's 7th best in the NFL through 3 games does Jacksonville. They're not a good defense. Don't get that confused. That's not what I'm getting at here, but definitely more gettable in the passing game. So wouldn't you want your passing game players out there all the time? I would like to see Cordarrelle Patterson at least active for this one, so pay attention to that thigh injury that we're looking at on his side. But Tyler Algier on the season, really adding nothing in terms of receiving. All of 36 yards total in 3 outings. Yeah, that is 17, 19, 17 that you're looking at here over the course of this season. He had one game with a big fat 0, but we're talking about median outcomes. We're not talking about the average outcomes. That's a terrible way to look at props. If you want a further explanation of that, ask me over at Eric Lindquist. Be happy to talk you through it. But I think there's a lot of situations where you get a flat 0 from Tyler Algier, and I'm willing to take the shot. Under 7.5 receiving yards for a half unit to get our day going. What a time to be alive. At least I gave you something to sweat. Off to a matchup between two teams coming off complete eviscerations of their opposition last week. We got the Dolphins. They hung a 70 spot on the Broncos. The Bills defense, they guillotined the Commanders. And now, two sides matching up, which I personally am super excited about. Again, Bills defense, Miami offense, Mike McDaniel, confirmed pretty good at calling plays of method of disguise. I am a method of disguise. I bet he probably sings that song because he's weirder and nerdier than I am. It's hard. It's hard to believe, I know. But I'm actually looking at the Bills offense against the Dolphins defense as the main catalyst of what we're looking at for this football game. Doesn't mean that I have any play from it. It's simply something that I'm leaning towards because the Bills, they bring PFF's third-rated offense to the table. We know that Josh Allen, Gabe Davis, just the one catch, did bring it in for a tutty last week. Stephon Diggs picking up where he left off, and Dalton Kincaid. He's no Sam Laporta. Could have used one more catch yesterday, Sam. Again, more the Packers. I'm always going to blame the Packers in those kind of situations. Thanks for the game script, guys. But the Dolphins are number one in terms of offense, so there's that. But the Dolphins bring a middling 11th. 11th. That's still decent enough. Top half of the NFL, but 11th rated defense by PFF, whereas the Bills bring the 5th rated offense to the table. So I'm just saying it's an interesting matchup on that side of the ball, even though everybody's going to focus, and rightfully so, coming off of 70 for Miami and infinity fantasy points there for over 30, depending on what standard league, what your rules are, things of that nature. But I'm simply going to be leaning towards the Buffalo side here. It's one of the best home environments that you can possibly look at here in the NFL. Going into Buffalo, those people are crazy, I tell you. Smashing tables, smashing faces, and Jalen Waddle, yeah, he's back here from Miami, which is why this number didn't move outside of the key 3. But I would have actually been more interested in backing Miami at that type of a number here at 3.5. Kind of weird how I'm being extremely sensitive around this 3 number. 2.5 for the Buffalo side, I'd be leaning. If this were at 3.5, I'd be leaning toward the Miami side, but I'd want it to move through one of those numbers. On the other sides, I want a little bit better than 2. I would want a little bit better than 3.5 there if we're looking at the Miami side. So maybe something happens here, but more than likely doubtful, and more than likely with Waddle back in the mix. Tyreek Hill, we got him right last week too in like one possession. Again, wasn't a complete disaster, but I got to be better this week. So just avoid this game this time around. We got better stuff coming up on the card. What in God's green earth do we do here? The Denver Broncos coming off of a 50-point loss in Miami. Thanks for coming. Drive home safely. Chicago Bears, the worst team in the NFL by pretty much every advanced metric through the first 3 weeks, coming off of a just beat down. There was some garbage time there that didn't make it look as bad, but we saw Taylor Swift up there in the stands, just laughing, giggling, ha, ha, because it was never in doubt. I'm not going to use any Taylor Swift puns. I promise. I will not be that analyst for you. But this opened at Denver -1.5, and Denver's been taking all the money coming off a 50-point loss. What a time to be alive. I will say, from a DFS perspective, this is something that I broke down pretty in depth because I do think Denver has a pretty good chance of hanging up points through the passing game. Not exactly sure what Javonte Williams, who has yet to exceed 50% of snaps in a single game, is going to accomplish in this spot, but I'm not really going to be looking at shorting any of those props as they currently sit here across the board. And in fact, there's one passing game piece that I just think has to show up on the field more. Just has to. It's Marvin Mims Jr. Not only does he have draft equity, but he's been elusive when targeted. He's been elusive as a punt returner. There are so many times that I'm watching Marvin Mims and I'm like, is Sean Payton aware that this is the most athletic dude on the field right now? No, he's not. Okay, great. He needs to be here, but there were actually rumblings, and this is where speculation comes in. This is not in the data, which is like 99% of what you do, or of what I do, but just like in the NBA where you have to follow the news, you got to follow the carrot. Sounds like there's been a shift, a change of the guard, if you will, to what Denver is planning to do on offense going into the Chicago game. Sounds like Marvin Mims could see the field drastically more after not really seeing it at all through 3 weeks, even putting up massive fantasy scores in the process. Plus 420 exists as the prevailing number at FanDuel. Plus 420 is a gigantic number. If we see Marvin Mims on the field more than 40% of the time, I'm going to call this a win at this specific number. Chicago's secondary, completely inept, completely gettable. And yes, Mahomes, he's going to make everybody look bad from time to time, but the Bears have made everybody look good through the beginning of this season, and that is where I think a Marvin Mims, a Cortland Sutton, a Jerry Jeudy, I think there's a lot of opportunity here in the passing game to get after it against the Bears secondary. Bears secondary. I'm not sorry. I'm the opposite of sorry. 30th in terms of passing defense over the course of the first 3 weeks. It's just horrific what you've been seeing from them. I'm talking in circles about this because, again, this game has a very wide range of outcomes. I wish I had jumped in on Denver -1.5, but I kind of let that line sit a little bit too long, let it marinate. Little simmer action. Did I mention bet early? You should bet early on some of these, but hey, Marvin Mims, anytime touchdown. I'm leaning here because I understand plus 420. It's not the most likely thing, but I want you paying attention to practice reports. I want you paying attention to things of this nature over on twitter.com. Sometimes they can be right, and sometimes they can uncover a kernel like this. Again, don't have to go beyond a quarter of a unit, half a unit, something that you're comfortable with. Don't get nuts, but I'm leaning this one, probably going to be putting it into play. Baltimore at Cleveland, and I'm curious. This is a little interactive. I'm host, you're viewer. I'm host, you're viewer. I want to know what you, the viewer, thinks. Who is the best defense in the NFL? Which team has the best defense in the NFL? Independent of offense, independent of other factors, coach, who has the best talent on the roster? Who is performing at the best level, the highest level in the NFL? I personally would I personally would pick the Cleveland Browns. Myles Garrett, Zadarius Smith on the edges. Silly good. God, I miss Zadarius Smith on my Vikings. Just an absurd pass rush that they have going there. But the secondary is workable. The linebacking crew, well over 70 grades over on PFF. And Grant Delpit is well within the conversation for best safety in the entire National Football League. And here's why I wanted to pose that question of who is the best defense in the league. Again, what team has the best defense in the league? Who have the Ravens played so far this season? Think about that for a second, because I would argue the Ravens have had. I got to work on my present and past tense here. This is definitely this is telling to me. But who have the Ravens played over the course of this season? I'll tell you because that's my job. The Houston Texans, week 1. The Cincinnati Bengals with the corpse of Joe Burrow, week 2. And then the Colts against Gardner Minshew, week 3. I'm just going to say they haven't been all that impressive to me. Lamar Jackson got completely paid, and hey, it's not his fault that you lose your star running back. And yeah, I'll call him a star running back purely because I find J.K. Dobbins, when healthy, to be an absolute beast. He's just never healthy. Gus Edwards does get back here. Justice Hill is questionable here for this one, but I want you to focus on how inept this passing game has been here purely because of injuries. Week 1. Mark Andrews out. Week 3 and 4 here, you got some dinged up guys. You have Odell Beckham out for week 3, and now going to be out again for week 4, in addition to Rashad Bateman, one of the better young wide receivers in the NFL. So you're looking at Zay Flowers having to do everything for this football team. The corpse of Nelson Aguilar, I'm sure Philly fans love hearing his name. He's going to have to be effective in the passing game. And then you're looking at Lamar Jackson, who, again, has been great in terms of adding some type of rushing depth here. 12 and 14 attempts the last 2 games against the Colts, 101 and 2 tutties, with 2 fumbles, by the way. I'll throw that in there as well, but has yet to exceed 240 yards passing in a single game this season. I understand that's not his calling card. I understand that he can do it when he has all of his players healthy, but you have a Cleveland home team with the pass rush that is going to be coming down the pipeline here in Garrett and Smith. And now, if it's not Zay Flowers, It's nobody. I'm sorry. Nelson Aguilar ain't that dude to me. I'm finding this to be a very intriguing under with Cleveland. No Nick Chubb, obviously, for the rest of the season with that horrific injury. Deshaun Watson looked great against the Titans secondary, which does nothing for me because everybody's going to look good against the Titans secondary. This is the most clear-cut under to me that exists on the board. This is a borderline lock for me. I got in at 40.5, not to brag, but 39.5. You should join the party. Yeah, producer Jacob. Whoa. Under 39.5. Sounds wild to say, but Baltimore's defense isn't all of that in a bag of potato chips. Amari Cooper should be able to get some of his, but I expect Cleveland to slow this puppy down in the event that they get the early lead. They've put the kitty gloves on Deshaun Watson a couple times this season. That's why they continue to perform, even in spite of him from time to time. Again, he looked good against the Titans. Let's just hold for a second. Instead of backing the Cleveland side here, I'm partaking the under 39.5. Man, I go from breaking down the last three matchups for Ravens team, and now I want to inform you of the last three matchups for the Titans here because something has to give here. It just has to. You got the Cincinnati Bengals taking on the Tennessee Titans. Congrats. We saw a fantastic outing from Jamar Chase. He's that dude. You want to know who that dude is? He's that dude. It's not going to surprise anybody that Jamar Chase can go out and do crazy things. T. Higgins continuing to see air yards, continuing to see targets. No Irv Smith there. Going to be out yet again this week. So, and tight ends, good luck trying to figure out if it's Sample or Wilcox based on the snap share from last week. But I'm not really focused on the Cincinnati side. Joe Burrow is off the injury report here with that calf injury, but it's still got to be lingering to some extent. I'm going to just say he's not 100% healthy. That press conference after that Monday night game didn't sound too convincing to me that he's like all of a sudden just deserving of being off the injury report entirely. But I'm just going to say this might be an eruption spot for King Henry. Yes, I'm actually looking at Derrick Henry in a lot of facets and backing him in a lot of ways here in this spot against Cincinnati over the course of the season. You've got a rushing defense. 29th are the Cincinnati Bengals out of 32 teams in the NFL. Not great, Bob. Not great. Giving up 151.7 rushing yards per game. Now, on the other side of this, Jamar Chase should be able to get his. And I thought about a correlated type prop situation. Sometimes you do this in DFS where you play specific pieces of games. I think this is one where they are very highly correlated to each other. If Jamar Chase goes nuts, I think there's a very good chance that Derrick Henry already went nuts or will go nuts here because there's nobody on the Cincinnati side that should be able to stop him. The major issue we've had is Tennessee is constantly playing from behind, and it has constantly been Tyjae Spears on the field for the Tennessee Titans. He's actually led this team in snaps through the first 3 weeks of the season at the running back position, which is wild. But here are the three matchups that they've had. On the road in New Orleans, negative game script. At home against the Chargers, positive game script, won that one. On the road in Cleveland against the defense we just talked about that is scary, terrifying, and very, very good at the game of football. Tyjae Spears had to come from behind and try to, be involved in the passing game. And Derrick Henry did have a little bit involvement on third down in that New Orleans game, but I want to focus in on that week 2 positive game script because you know what happened? Yeah, Derrick Henry only had 3.2 yards per carry. They stacked the box, eight guys in the box pretty routinely against him. But he saw 25 carries here for 80 yards and a tutty. I think Derrick Henry is in line for a much larger workload, and this line feels disrespectful because I'm not convinced that Derrick Henry is dust the way that everybody else is here. And I'm not saying that that's not a possibility, but all of 2 years ago, in 2021, he had the fastest carry speed, the fastest speed on any ball in carry for the running back position on the season. That is 2 years removed, and I know there's been a lot of mileage on the tire since then, but I'm not willing to just give up on somebody as big, as athletic, as what Derrick Henry is against a porous Bengals rushing defense. So here you are. Let's fire it up. We like it, 68.5 rushing yards. Only reason I'm not locking this one is I have a lot of other plays that I'm more interested in, but this one, think about pairing it with Jamar Chase, the over of receiving yards. I think this is a sneaky game to target, even despite the 40.5 total. We've got the Rams and Colts up next. The Rams coming off a tough performance in Cincy that kind of just talked about. It's weird how they're kind of like layered. There's layers now. And the Colts coming off a Gardner Minshew-led road overtime that was one of the few bright spots on my betting card last week. But now they get Anthony Richardson back, which adds a wrinkle that I don't really want to mess with, as we know what he can do with his legs. And on the Colts side, with the props, the current numbers, they've kind of already got that baked in, especially against a Rams defense that's brought more to the table than anticipated in 2023, which I guess shouldn't be all that surprising when you've got infinity time defensive player of the year, Aaron Donald, at the helm, but I digress. No. I would like to victory lap a little bit. I'm going to head to the Rams offense, and I'm going to be backing somebody who's pretty clear-cut the number one in this offense, and somebody that is very clear-cut, undervalued by the marketplace still. And anybody who's watched my content since day one knows that I was on Puka Nacua before Puka Nacua was on Puka Nacua. I think that was right. Yes, my friends, you heard it here first. Before week one, we were on the over. Said I was thinking about locking it. Ended up putting a full unit on just about everything across the board. Didn't get in the box, but we got the over of receptions by a mile, over of receiving by a mile. Backed it up in week 2. Backed it up in week 3, which was a sweat. It was a sweat. Went down to the last throw of the game there. Well, last throw to him there in the last 2 minutes there for Puka Nacua, but he hits the over on both of those props for us. Thank you, young man. You're a real one. But I want to highlight Jordan Vanek, who used to work here over at Stochastic once upon a time. A really sharp dude, works for 33rd Football. He threw out a tweet that really caught my eye earlier this week. 4 wide receivers have had over a 34% target share against zone coverage defense over the course of the season. Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, A.J. Brown, and it'd be really weird if it wasn't Puka Nacua, but it's Puka Nacua. So there you go, friends. Puka Nacua is going to see a ton of zone coverage. In fact, the Colts run zone coverage at the highest clip of any other defense in the NFL. Oh, fuck. He's going to smash. A Puka Nacua, a Puka Nacua, a Puka Nacua. Over 6.5 receptions, friends. Over 71.5 receiving yards. Combine the two. Make sweet love in this club. We're going to make sweet love in this club. Ooh, yeah. That was a weird segment. I'm sorry. Speaking of weird segments, we go from overs on a wideout to unders on a wideout. We've got the Bucs visiting the Superdome and the Saints. Jameis Winston in line to start this one. Yet another wrinkle I'm not really ready to. We'll get there in a second. But on the other side, Eagles defense is pretty good, right? We can throw that out there. That why did we let the Eagles get Jalen Carter? Can somebody explain to me in the NFC in simple terms why we let the Eagles defense get the best defensive player that's been in the draft in the last 3 years? Why did we let him slide? Good job. Good effort. Thanks, everybody. They're a juggernaut. It is really, really annoying. They're going to win with offense. They're going to win with defense. They're just ridiculous. If you want to get some futures in, well, now might be the time because, when they're 10-0 and we're looking back on this, probably should have done that. I haven't done it, but I should think about it. Anyway, this line has not moved 1 iota all week. 3.5. Still 3.5. But anywho, we are looking at Jameis Winston here for the Saints team. Going to have the kitty gloves on him. Looked like that's what they were going to do there in the second half against the Packers. When you saw Derek Carr go out, Derek Carr with the shoulder injury, no way that I believe he plays here in this spot. So just get ready for Jameis Winston coming down the pipeline. This should be entertaining, if nothing else. But speaking of entertaining and also speaking about gloves, we're looking at boxing gloves. If anybody is not familiar with the Mike Evans, Marshawn Lattimore situation, Mike Evans, star wide receiver for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Marshawn Lattimore, star cornerback out of LSU. These two do not like each other. It is Montagues and Capulets. It is Sharks. It is Jets. It is... Why does my brain go there? My dad and my career choices. Anyway, Mike Evans, my friends, I'm telling you ahead of time, this is going to be something that you don't get an opportunity to do very often, where you're legitimately baking in ejection risk. You heard me. It's happened multiple times throughout these two facing up in NFC South showdowns throughout the seasons. Score extra points off the top of your head. But Tampa Bay and New Orleans here in this spot. Gonna play twice? Twice is nice. I think the first time around. Gonna get a little bit chippy, don't you think? Marshawn Lattimore, one of the best cornerbacks, so I think he can actually win this matchup in a lot of situations. and understand that Baker Mayfield has certain limitations that play more into the Chris Godwin, more into the Cade Otton style of middle of the field, short route situations, put them in the slot, make things happen quickly like they did against the Minnesota Vikings, but that hardly counts because the Minnesota Vikings have a disturbingly bad defense. I know because they're my team. Boo. Anywho, we are looking at backing the under of Mike Evans here in the prop market, 59.5. Already a pretty low number. Some might say, oh, it's got it already baked in. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. This is a pretty efficient prop. I've got him for 55 without the ejection risk. Again, 4.5 difference in receiving yards. It's not crazy, but you bake in 10, 15, 20% ejection risk, which is legitimately at the clip he's been getting ejected against Marshawn Lattimore in his career. I think it's a really good play. Under 59.5 receiving yards. Fire it up in the Superdome. Fire this up down in the link below, my friends. Bet 365, damn good 5. Let me suck it to you one more time. Speaking of one, bet $1. Get 365 bonus bets. Get it low like an 18-wheeler. Sign up down below. That's so chill. Is she naked? Actually, no, she's not. That'd be really awkward. Sign up, though. Sign up, $10 down below in the link. This is just silly. I mean, 18 and over in Kentucky. All you have to do is be 18, 19, 20, 21 years old in Kentucky, and you're able to bet on sports now. That is wild. Insane stuff. Bet $1, get 365. It would be silly if you didn't take advantage of this offer. Don't you think? Yeah, it would be silly. The fact that I can't take advantage of this right now, that I'm not in the great states of like Colorado, definitely have this offer. Great states like Kentucky, they definitely have this offer. A lot of good spots. I know. Oh, up there in Canada, eh? They got some good stuff up there. Snowshoes coming out soon. Gonna have some ice on the pond. Go play some hockey. Sorry. Anyway, bet $1, get 365. This sells itself. I'm just kind of killing time. It's down below. It's only if you're 21 and over, 18 and over in Kentucky. And if you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. That is all, friends. Back to the picks. This is more of a disgusting game than anything. The Washington Commanders, the Philadelphia Eagles. Obviously, this line was going to move in favor of the Philadelphia Eagles. It always was. It always was 7.5, but this is like a specific fade the public spot. If you want to know what I'm talking about, there are lots of places that you can pull up efficient numbers that talk about how many tickets, what percentage of the handle, all of those lovely things that are coming in on the Eagles side. And it should shock nobody that people are jamming in this spot. 83% of the handle currently on the Philadelphia Eagles as of recording this Friday early in the evening. Just saying, it's a wild, wild type of situation here. Only 17% of the money coming in there on the Washington Commanders side. But could you have possibly seen a team play worse than what they played against the Buffalo Bills? Went back and watched it. Sam Howell, somebody who I've been advising for. That was such a bad spot for him in general. They got after him with the blitz. You got Terry McLaurin not really getting any separation whatsoever. I'm a little bit worried, mainly because this wide receiving core I thought was the strength of this football team. And now you're facing a Philadelphia. I mean, I talked about it. They're absolute juggernauts. This team is ridiculous. Sweat on the edge. Carter in the middle. Got Bradbury just running around doing everything for this defense at this point in time. I mean, this Philadelphia defense is dumb. It's dumb. And I understand they're only 9th ranked in PFF's grading. Think about the pieces that they've been playing without from time to time. Still without Maddox, still without Brown at the cornerback position. Both of them going to be out for this game as well. They can get those two back healthy before the playoff time. My God, it could just be silly, silly stuff here. And Washington's defense, they're not exactly a zero on the other side. Fuller playing corner, 2nd-ranked corner in all of football, getting the matchup there with A.J. Brown. Probably going to be shying away to a certain extent there. And then you got Sweat on that side. You got Young on the other side. Young actually playing decent, even though he didn't get his 4th-year option picked up, which is kind of wild to think about. But yeah, Reddick, Sweat, Cox, Carter, Philly. It's disturbing to say. I can't really talk. I can only talk in circles for so much. But plus 9.5? I'm at least intrigued to fade the public here. I'm at least intrigued. I'm not saying I'm going to do it because I'm more than likely not. I've just said we should go out of our way to bet a bad number here on Philly to go to the playoffs because it could get even worse. And they are set up that well, barring health, which you could say about just any team in the NFL. So that's kind of a moot talking point. But Washington plus 9.5, I'm considering it. They could not possibly play worse. Does Adam Thielen have revenge in his heart, I ask you? Yeah, probably not. He got paid the bag, loved his time there. I miss him. I miss you. I miss you. Anyway, Minnesota Vikings. We've got Kirk Cousins playing at a very, very elite level. It's weird to say that with Kirk Cousins because we always think of him as a game manager or a vanilla type passer, but 2 years ago set the record for completion percentage in the NFL. We're talking about somebody, an offense that's throwing it over 75% of the time in the early going of this season. A ridiculous passing volume here, and Kirk Cousins makes everything work. Yes, Justin Jefferson doesn't exactly suck to have him out there, the best wide receiver in the NFL, in my opinion, and many others' opinions. But you're going into Carolina here, and Carolina, I will call this a downgraded quarterback, going from Andy Dalton to Bryce Young. We saw Andy Dalton just chuck it around the entire field there in Seattle. Tried to keep him in that one, tried to win that bet for us, but it is what it is, friends. Back to Bryce Young we go. And yet, I think that's kind of baked into this number. I think the public and myself would have taken this number up to 48.5, 49.5 if we had seen Andy Dalton here at the helm. Now, the Vikings defense, absolutely horrendous. I don't know how many other ways that I can put it. They have no ways of doing anything whatsoever in the secondary. They have no opportunity to slow anybody down. Now, that being said, Adam Thielen, I don't think about as the most dangerous wide receiver in the NFL, although he has been a competent red zone threat for years and years and years, even going back to last year where Kirk Cousins was targeting him at a ridiculous clip. But with Jonathan Mingo more than likely going to miss this football game, he's listed questionable, but it's concussion. And if anybody's been noticing how concussions have been handled this season, they are very, very careful, more than likely missing every single time. So you can get some early line value when it's a player that matters. Jonathan Mingo doesn't really matter all that much to me, but it matters if you're trying to predict what's going to happen with an Adam Thielen or, a Terrace Marshall Jr., a DJ Chark, DJ Chark, DJ Chark, DJ Chark. Yeah, in the running back position, we're going to have to pay attention. Cam Akers more than likely going to get activated. That is what the plan is. Now, Kevin O'Connell, he has familiarity with him going back to the Rams days. Think this could be a very interesting concept, having him and Madison. Sucks if you own Madison in fantasy. Rip to those shares. But just saying, there's an opportunity here for them to have a tandem back, a situation to keep everybody fresh. Cam Akers wasn't necessarily that he was just not as good as Kyron Williams. I think that's what it comes down to. You're not going to run him out on a rail coming off of the Achilles injury. End of last season, he looked serviceable. Obviously, Sean McVay didn't care about his health there at that point in time because he had 1 foot out the door. So there's that. But I love the over in this football game. Carolina, nothing on the defensive side of the ball that I'm really worried about when you look at the complexion of this Minnesota Vikings offense and how they have handled things with Kirk Cousins game managing here to a certain extent, and then just also being really good other than when he should spike the ball at the end of games and not throw it to TJ Hawkinson. Ridiculous. We're going to win money here, though. Over 46.5. Borderline lock. Shout out to Tank freaking Dell, fam. What a baller. He's very good at football. And maybe I was wrong about CJ Stroud. Maybe CJ Stroud was not a product of the Ohio State environment of the Jackson Smith and Jigba, the Chris Olaves. Doesn't hurt to have those guys. Think we can all agree on that. But CJ Stroud, still to this point, yet to throw an interception. And he has played a lot of football here in the early going of this season. 4 touchdowns, 0 picks. And last week was by far his best gem going up against Jacksonville on the road there. An absolute beatdown. 20 for 30, 66.7% completion rating. But even though he went for 384 against Indy, I find that Jacksonville game to be far more impressive on tape. And that's why you're seeing 118.8 QB rating there. Just throwing it out there. He was calm. He was collected. He made the right reads. And also, Tank Dell, nearly a 35% first read percentage, meaning that CJ Stroud locked in on him, and he was open, and it worked out really, really nicely there. Tank Dell What a steal that could end up being here in this draft. Looking nice, looking real nice next to Nico Collins and a little bit of a revamped Robert Woods, who might finally be healthy for the first time in a long time. But you're still seeing Pittsburgh here as favorites. I think it's understandable to a certain extent. Mike Tomlin's figuring out how to make Steelers teams functional here, 2-1, despite an offense that really is sputtering, in my opinion, and a lot of others' opinions, because Deontay Johnson confirmed missing him, that's for sure. But Houston going back home here in this spot, back into the dome, back with a bunch of healthy dudes. I think Dalton Schultz is only going to get more and more acclimated as we go. And yeah, I do think Pittsburgh going to have to be able to put up points in this spot. I think Houston is going to be more than serviceable. 42.5. I thought about the over, but there's a reason money has been coming in, and this has been bet down from 4.5 to 2.5. Probably doing anything here. I'll just say Texans, go out and win us a football game at plus money. Plus 126 seems fun. Thought about Tank Dell props. Lots of things that are intriguing in this game. I just haven't pulled the trigger on anything because, again, the Watt brothers scare me. Yeah, the TJ version he's very good at football. Just throwing it out there. I gotta say, one of the weirdest narratives going around Twitter is that Josh Palmer is a plug-and-play wide receiver 2 going into this week. It's not that I don't think Josh Palmer has not proven his acclimation ability. Him and Justin Herbert, some definite rapport, but think about last season when Josh Palmer had a lot of his big games. It was independent of Keenan Allen being out. Keenan Allen was out. Now, Mike Williams, I love Big Mike. Sad to see him tear his ACL facing my Minnesota Vikings there last season, but you got to just look at what the tea leaves are saying. And the tea leaves for me are saying absolute lock fest here in this one going up against Vegas, which maybe this game doesn't end up shooting out the way. Jimmy Garoppolo did not clear concussion protocol here on Friday. That was the big news out of the Vegas spot. You could be looking at Brian Hoyer being the guy who ends up getting the start. He has been the Raiders backup. Not saying that there isn't an outside chance that Aiden O'Connell ends up being somebody that they bring in, but considering he was inactive last week, 2 weeks ago, I think Brian Hoyer has to be the guy here now. I think Brian Hoyer ends up being your starter for Vegas in the event that Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't clear concussion. I can't talk. Don't mind me. Just my job. Concussion protocol, friends. Yes. Jimmy Garoppolo, that is the main thing to pay attention to on the Vegas side. That's why you're seeing a lot of props that aren't on the board, and some of them are very low. And I would want to have interest in here, even with Jimmy G there, who is only targeting in over 75% of the time Devontae Adams and Jacoby Myers. It is a 2-horse show there. Not that that should be surprising to any of you. I am looking at Josh Jacobs props here as well. But friends, it is Quentin Johnston season. If you saw him play at TCU, he is playing almost exclusively on the outside. And, well, Josh Palmer's been playing on the outside, Eric. I don't understand. Yeah, he's been playing on the outside because he's been in a scheme with Mike Williams and he's playing on the other side in line with Keenan Allen. And this makes no sense to me that you wouldn't just plug and play Quentin Johnston, who you have first-round draft equity in, for this spot. Riddle me that, Batman. And here's the other thing. This is a very, very low prop that has the upside of being caught in 1, maybe 2 balls immediately. He has only seen through the first 3 weeks 27% of the snaps in week 1, 15% of the snaps in week 2, and 24% of the snaps in week 3. 22% total of the snaps for Quentin Johnston out of TCU. Now, over 24.5 receiving yards. Low number. There is a chance, if you are risk averse, you could downgrade this to a like. But for me, friends, I have a unit and a half on this because I am very, very bullish on my read that Quentin Johnston is going to benefit just being on the field more and play that outside role. And they will move Palmer around the field, somebody who has more familiarity with this offense. And I think that creates big play separation here for Johnston in a way where maybe Palmer can get peppered with targets, but at his current lines, I have no interest. Quentin Johnston could be that dude. If he jumps up to 50, 55, 60% of snaps here in this spot, you're filling more than that with Mike Williams out. Just saying, this is an absolute smash if my read is correct. So Quentin Johnston, let's go. I would like to apologize to producer Jacob, to Bill and Lorraine Lindquist, my parents. I would like to apologize to my wife, my dog. We lost some money on Tony Pollard last week. You come to me for betting information. to give you good picks, to tell you when a thing is a lock, it's going to happen barring injury. Because again, that could come to any stipulation all the time. But friends, what the hell? We're talking about a guy who's led the NFL in terms of opportunity. He had 48 through 2 weeks. I felt very confident about Tony Pollard getting in the box against Arizona. And then Rico Dowdle takes a pass to the house. Not Tony Pollard, but only touchdown of the game, Rico Dowdle. Fuck that guy. We're going to absolutely run Tony Pollard back, friends. There's no way that we're not going to play the guy who has the most opportunities at the running back position through 3 weeks. What are we even doing here? Why do we even need analysis? We like this play. The only reason I'm not locking it is because I'm a little bit gun shy. I'm a little bit shy. You know, it's like going to a big stadium and sitting next to the urinal, next to like the big tall dude, and you're just like, it's a little uncomfortable. But I'm comfortable with myself. I'm a big, strong man. Tony Pollard, touchdown, minus 118 at Caesars. I don't know why I went in like an Abraham Lincoln there. That was a weird bit. Tony Pollard, run it back. Don't be scared. Don't be shy, mini-me. The walking wounded here on the San Francisco side of things, taking on Arizona here. 2 games to go, by the way. Hit that like button, subscribe button, notification bell. If you enjoy this content, if you enjoyed the presentation of how I put the data together with such an eloquent way of speaking and ridiculousness and just being myself, I don't know. I don't really have any other options. I have to be me. I would love to be Brock Purdy. He also went to Iowa State. Shout out my alma mater. Completely smashing here on the San Francisco side, but skill position players could be at a premium here. You do have Brandon Ayuk back for this one, but just got downgraded at the end of practice, Jawan Jennings, as well as Deebo Samuel continues to be questionable with his ribs and knee injury, but knowing that he has had crazy amounts of injury designations over the course of the last couple of years. Red 19, also the only number you should ever be playing at roulette. Mr. Deebo Samuel here, Red 19. I don't know if he necessarily sees the field here. And shout out Arizona for crushing our hopes and dreams with that Tony Pollard prop last week. And Josh Dobbs, love the story. Nothing like coming in 15 days before the beginning of a season and actually making a difference on your football team. Looked legitimately good last week. Looked legitimately decent against the Giants in week 2. By Kyler Murray. Has anybody talked about Kyler Murray to the Jets? Does that make any sense at all? I don't think that could work out. Kirk Cousins makes way too much damn sense. We'll see if we lose to Carolina this week and see how I feel about that. But James Conner, my absolute dude, unfortunately, going into San Francisco, you know that question we posed at the beginning of the show? Well, near the beginning of the show, who has the best defense in the NFL? San Francisco, they could put their hat in the rings, especially in the NFC side. Them, Philly. They're pretty good. They're pretty good at the old defense. You got the Bosa's. They're pretty scary, too. This Nick version that plays for San Francisco, confirmed pretty good when healthy. Again, that stipulation showing up a lot today. But you know what happens if you have Deebo Samuel sit for this game? You're getting a ton of value on every single Christian McCaffrey prop, period. And I left one thing out that's also very important. Even though this number open at 14, still at 14, you might not have the garbage time run from Eli Mitchell that we saw on a short week last time around, week 3. Against the Giants. You saw 11 carries for Elijah Mitchell. If you caught my article over at oddshopper.com, you saw Elijah Mitchell over 25 and a half rushing yards. My prop of the day closed a little bit higher there. I was obsessed with backing Elijah Mitchell there on a short week, coming off of McCaffrey playing 100% of snaps against the Rams. Elijah Mitchell is questionable for this tilt as well. Did not participate in practice on Friday. That makes me lean towards him being out, towards Deebo Samuel being out, and Jawan Jennings, I think, is for sure going to be out. That's a lot of offensive depth that's missing here. I think George Kittle becomes an interesting prospect to combine in single game parlays. I think it also makes it an intriguing prospect to look at I had to remember his name for 5 seconds. Don't hurt me. We've got Mr. Ronnie Bell, who got himself into the box as well against those Giants there on Thursday night. So Ronnie Bell, sneaky. But you know what's not sneaky at all in any way, shape, or form is the idea of backing Christian McCaffrey for an anytime touchdown no matter what. 100% of snaps 2 weeks ago, 2 touchdown favorites at home. He is getting a workload like none other. Well, actually, it's identical to Kyren Williams, both 100% of snaps competitive games. Ridiculous stuff. But Christian McCaffrey touchdown. This is the game. If I'm building out single game parlays where I want a bunch of overs, and I see the screenshots, people, trust me, I see them, even if I'm not doing them myself, because I'm more of the single bet mentality. Oh my God, producer Jacob, you're one of them, aren't you? Producer Jacob just firing up the single game parlay, putting it on screen for me to see. My dude, it's a really good play this week. I think you want to be early. Beat the news, friends. Christian McCaffrey, anytime touchdown. I'm going to make that the lean, but I really want you to identify this is a great single game parlay opportunity in this one. And the last game of the night, the nightcap, we got the Taylor Swifts taking on the New York Jets. Going to be amazing, amazing time. My God, I might have to mute that on Twitter. Taylor Swift. I can't see any more of it. Are you burned out already? It's been 1 week too. 1 week. It's been like 5 days, 6 days. I'm over it. They're probably going to get married and have really, really athletic, adorable babies now, but you know, is what it is. Anywho, my neck itched. Kansas City coming off evisceration of the Bears. That shouldn't surprise anybody here whatsoever. On the Jet side of things, Zach Wilson exists. Poor guy. It's weird that I feel bad for a guy who was like getting down with some moms and like living the high life there in New York City, but I legitimately feel bad for him after some of the comments from Jets greats bashing him, saying that they need to move on instantly. He's been bad, no doubt about it, but he's been bad in spots where they've had to come from behind. All of those picks throughout the, that game or the week 2 loss there in Dallas, all of the picks came in the last 3 drives of the game where he was trying to make something happen. What's he supposed to do? Not try to win the football game? You call an offensive scheme to try to win a football game. I get it, but also it was very, very limiting to him. It's not like there's a ton of great skill position players in terms of anybody not named Garrett Wilson. I don't value Alan Lazard, shout out Iowa State. I don't value him all that highly here at the NFL level. I don't value, they don't value Mecole Hardman whatsoever. It's just a really tough spot for me to see Zach Wilson having success without Breece Hall on the field. You just need Breece Hall to play unlimited snaps, which he is probably, the entire season away from having happen. Then you can talk Breece Hall, shout out Iowa State. Lots of Iowa State shout outs the last couple. This is fun. This is a fun time. Cool. I know where people went to college. The college I went to. It's not impressive at all. But 7. This opened at 7, moved to 8.5. I'm not in love with anything outside of betting this one. Like, I'm looking at the props here. We know how that target share gets spread around to the Kansas City wide receiver position, and it's so concentrated on Travis Kelce at the tight end position. So, like, think these are pretty efficient numbers. Zach Wilson, it's so hard to know what you're getting here. Probably not good. Jets defense has to do everything. 41.5 total. Only thing that keeps me away from the over is what do the Jets do? And so by that reasoning, I have it projected closer to around 10. Point and a half, key number of 9.5, 10. It's a key number of 10, Eric. That is the key number, you dumbass. Anywho, not dumb. Kansas City minus 8.5. Think it's a solid play to round out your evening on Sunday night. And that does it for another edition of Lindy's Leans, Likes, and Locks. You know what to do. Go to that comment section below. Let me know your favorite plays that exist here for Sunday's slate of games. Check out Lofty's content as well. He broke everything down on Wednesdays. Again, great opportunity to beat some of these lines, get closing line value. That's the name of the game in the NFL. Again, very efficient lines come Sunday. So jump in early. That's why I try to get here on Friday for you, especially in the aftermath of the practice reports for the entire week. Friday, a very telling day that you want to be early to news. I'm also looking at Christian McCaffrey. 79.5 just dropped for the rushing line. That is way too damn low. I just want to throw that one out there for the people in addition to the anytime touchdown. Producer Jacob, go revamp that single game parlay, but don't revamp anything over at Bet365. Simply go sign up, bet $1, get $365 in bet credits. If you want to know if it's available in your state, simply click on that link below. Check it out. Kentucky, congratulations. Welcome to the fray. It's only if you're 21 and over, 18 and over in Kentucky. And if you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. That does it for week 4. Excited to be back with you for week 5. Check out MLB Lindy's for the postseason as well. Going to be breaking down all of the baseball goodness here starting on Monday night into Tuesday's slate of games. Until then, thank you to producer Jacob. I'm Eric Lindquist. Best of luck in the NFL streets on Sunday.